For an assignment in my Master's of Education at Western Oregon University, I created this screencast video as an example of a homeschool orientation for my very precocious 10-year-old son Hunter before he officially begins 5th grade. Now obviously some of this material isn't what you would find in a public school 5th grade curriculum. However, his curriculum's designed for him, his needs and his learning speeds and interest and so forth. And any other child, or if I had more than one child, I would do it differently for that child. But I think this gives a good example of ways to orientate and organize material for children. So that's why I'm recording this. So here we go. Hi Hunter. I wanted to create a presentation that would orient you on the game plan for your 5th grade starting this September. I have an exciting year planned for you. You've expressed a strong desire to be a comedian and an actor. So I have adjusted your curriculum to include as many activities and field trips and classes and skills that I could come up with that I think would help you achieve your goal. To be an actor, it requires excellent communication skills, both verbal and written, and communication through technology nowadays. And this includes social media and presentation skills. And to be a comedian, wow, I mean, you have to have a deep knowledge of current events and history and even how the world works, science and business and technology. So you have something to write your jokes about. I actually think comedians are some of the smartest people around. I mean, not only do they have to know how to talk to people, they have to know enough about everything to write jokes that make people think in totally different ways. I mean, they see what other people miss, and that takes incredible observation and listening skills. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come out of the slideshow, and let's see if I can do that. Oops, there we go. I'm going to come out of the slideshow here on this screencast, and we're going to go and we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to open up Excel, and right here, what I've got here in Excel is I've put together this schedule for the fall. And this schedule, obviously, you've seen the schedule before. You had one for 4th grade. And as you complete a course, like your Introduction to Manners or Ethics or your Research Check Sheet and so forth, and then that'll come off your curriculum, and the next one in line will replace that course in that slot. But as you can see, you get to attend here, art school again, the Masters of Art homeschool program this year, again in Salem, Oregon. And I've got you signed up for Lego animation, photography, computer art, including Photoshop and creative writing. And I know you'd love those particular classes. So in addition to math and science and the history work that you have to do in order to have something to draw on when you're writing your materials and jokes, we're going to concentrate this semester on some media literacy and Web 2.0. And what Web 2.0 means is, that means an interactive web. I mean, the first web when it came out, it was static, meaning not moving. You would just stare at the pages, and that's what kind of web you had. Now you got an interactive web where you get to do things and communicate on it and interact with it. And the good news is I just completed a media literacy and also a Web 2.0 college class at Western Oregon. And I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to help you learn it. So this is, again, done in Excel, and Excel is great for organizing lots of information and for doing graphs and things like that. So when you're ready to learn that or interested in maybe doing that as part of a presentation, let me know, and I'll give you an orientation on how to use Excel. So I'm going to minimize that now. And now I want to go into the presentation parts of the software, and let's look at Prezi for a second. And you remember Prezi. You actually were part and parcel to this particular presentation. You helped me put this together just through your comments and letting me use your photos and so forth. And it was all about academic teaching and learning theories, how it could be applied to your homeschool. And the cool thing about Prezi is it's motion. It gives you kind of like this feeling of motion and animation with your photos. And you can record voice and music and so forth. And here, let's see if I can go back to the first one and press play. Maybe it's on it. Let's see what happens here. There we go. And I'll let you listen for just 1 second, and then we'll come out of Prezi. And so you start it down here. And
Ever wonder what a homeschool class would look like if it were built on widely accepted leading academia teaching theories?
See, and then you would keep clicking, and as you click, you would go into each new one.
You know, theories that were created by leading theorists in the past 150 years ago. Skinner,
So
Dewey.
I'm going to go ahead and stop that. So that's a Prezi, and you'll actually get to create your own Prezis to present something maybe you've learned in history or some subject that you got. I think we've written it into the check sheets, and you might get some creative ideas of some of the Prezis you want to present. There's actually many presentation software. We're only going to concentrate on Prezi and PowerPoint this semester. So the other one is PowerPoint, and I'll open up PowerPoint again. PowerPoint was what we started in. PowerPoint, if you can see here, these are slides, and in each slide you can adjust the text and the color of the text, and you can even add animation and some video and so forth. And this was the last slide we looked at, and photos, and there's various rules about it. But the cool thing about PowerPoint is, it's Microsoft Office, and there's a lot of power behind that. And you'll learn to create your own, and you'll learn to, and you'll actually be putting together a PowerPoint or two or three for something that you're learning in school this coming year. Okay, so that's the presentation part. Let's talk again. See, we were talking about excellent communication skills and presentation skills. Now let's talk about social media here. So again, let's minimize PowerPoint, and let's go over here. The two pieces or groups of social media, and there's a lot of different outlets for social media, but we're only going to talk about Facebook and Twitter this semester. So let's go over to Facebook page, and really the reason why we're going to talk about Facebook and Twitter is I know you created a basic Facebook and Twitter account a few weeks ago without my permission, and I know you did it so you could like your friends' YouTube videos. So obviously you want to be part of the conversation, and you can be. But if you're going to start doing it, you want to do it right, and you want to do it safely. So you're going to learn how to set up your pages fully, how to add photos, and how to do this right and safely. So let's just pull up my page for a second. Here we go. That's my Facebook page. And this is a banner, and you can put your own banner and image, and this is your profile photo, and you get to upload photos and different ones of yourself as you grow. And your status is kind of like what's on your mind. I could type something and say, here I could say, showing Hunter something cool, whatever, and I could just say okay, and I can adjust though. Let's say I only want, right now it's public, anyone can see it, but I only want my friends to see it, or so forth. There's ways that I can adjust how to do this, and I can add in photos and images and locations and so forth, and I can post that on Facebook. And it's a cool way to stay in contact with your friends and your family. And it kind of gives you some history, but it gives you history, and it gives you a lot of photos about you and your family and so forth. So there's a lot of private information that maybe you don't want the whole world to see. There's maybe some jokes and your sports and what you like and music and cool things, and maybe you just really want people that you know and not some creep watching. So to that degree, there's got to be some safety there, and we're going to learn how to set that up. So that's Facebook. Let's go over to Twitter. Now, Twitter's really cool. Twitter is a way to stay in communication and short bits of communication with people that have similar interests as your own, like comedians and actors that you may be interested in hearing about and following and seeing what kind of jokes they do and so forth. And there's times it'll change in your life. And I didn't realize this until I took this class this summer. I had set up a Twitter account and so forth and was using it, but I kind of got overwhelmed. And I got overwhelmed because I'm following 1,845 people, which is just way too much to actually keep track of. So let's say we go here and let's find something here that I'm done following. Let's say here, let's say I'm done with Wendy Higgins, and I'm done. I don't need to follow her anymore for whatever reason. And Wendy, sorry about this, it's just an example. So I'm going to click on Wendy's page, and up comes Wendy, and hopefully this will work. And you can see I'm following it. Now if I click this button, I'll go from following to unfollow. So now I'm no longer following Wendy, and she won't show up in what this is, which is called my feed. So she won't show up there. But let's say I've got a friend and they say something really smart, right? Like this public understanding of plagiarism, right? Which means taking words and jokes. Like if you were to take jokes and say them and put them off as your own, but they're exactly word for word what someone else said, that would be plagiarism, right? So this was something I thought was really cool. And as you can see, I pressed that button retweeted, and I actually retweeted it on my own page. But let me go down here and see. Lots of great ideas for innovative learning spaces. So that's cool, Teachers for Tech. And I could open this up and I could read what the article is. And let's say I really like that. So I could retweet this. See, I'm retweeting that to now the people who are following me, which is 744 people. And so those 744 people that are following me, I'm assuming, are really interested in the type of things that I talk about, which is homeschool and education and alternative education and learning software platforms and learning software, adaptive learning software and various things like that, and e-learning, etc. So Twitter is a real powerful tool. And let me show you here. Like, I know you like Last Comic Standing, so I flipped over and I opened up the Last Comic Standing page. And if you notice, there's a little hashtag. That's what that little number sign is called, a hashtag. And when people send out tweets, if they want to see what somebody's talking about in one category, they put a hashtag. It's a way of categorizing. Kind of like in science, if you were categorizing the birds and the bees and you wanted robins and blue jays and you wanted to just talk about robins and not all of birds, you could go hashtag robins and then talk about how red they are or some such thing. Same thing in Twitter land, you hashtag. So here's hashtag Last Comic Standing. So anybody who wants to talk about Last Comic Standing can hashtag it, and then you're following this group, Last Comic Standing. And like you and I, oh my gosh, we both really like Joe Mackey, right? So we can click follow Joe Mackey, and now we're following him, and it'll show up on my Twitter page, everything that Joe Mackey says. And when Last Comic Standing's done and we don't want to keep following Joe Mackey, we can take him off of our feed. Now you love Mitra, Arlene Mitra, and we've been voting for him as a favorite comedian, and I really enjoy him because of the technology that he uses in his jokes. So let's say I wanted to send him a direct message. So right up here in the search box here, there is an A, and that A stands for @ and when I tweet with an @ sign, then I'm going to reach him on his Twitter feed. And it's going to be a direct message. If somebody wanted to reach me, for instance, they would do the @ sign and go Youth Muse, because that's who I am on Twitter. So I'm going to, right here, compose a new tweet, and there I've already started it, so it was faster, to him, and I want to categorize. I've got the categorize the hashtag Last Comic Standing, and I've got the category Tech Comic, because I think that's really his specialty and what I think separates him from the others. And I'm going to tell him to keep up the excellent tech jokes. We want more about social media. Let's say that, right? That's all. And so I'm going to now tweet that. And I tweet it. And it's now going directly to him. And very soon I might get an answer back from him. And I have actually gotten answers back from him when I started voting for him at the very beginning and encouraging him to keep using Twitter and social media. So that's how powerful Twitter is. So now let's go back to Facebook for a second, our PowerPoint, and I want to go to this last slide here, because let's talk about safety for a second. I enjoyed, this is called an infographic, and you can create one of these where you put a lot of information on one graphic, and somebody did a fantastic job. Person down here did a fantastic job. They made one for cyberbullying and all kinds of great stuff. But safety is vital. So if you're going to be on social media, then we're going to do it properly and safely. And I don't want you jumping onto social media until we get through the full social media lesson. And then I'll give you okay to be on there. But as you already know, everything you post, every click you make on this computer, every single site you visit is recorded forever. There are unethical marketing groups and think tank groups and government folks who's going to create a profile on what you think and who you are based off of your behavior on the computer, even though you're only 10 years old. And then that idea about you can last a really long time in people's minds and in their files, or forever. I mean, you got to think of it this way. At 10 years old, do you think the same way and like the same things as when you were 5 years old? Of course not. You're not going to think the same way and like the same things at 15 than you are now, and most certainly not the same at 20 or 25, because you're still growing and changing. right? So that's why we really have to include as much security and protection in place on your social media as possible. I want you to think of it like having your mother's eyes on you 24/7. Every time you're on the computer, you are being watched. You are being recorded. And as creepy as that sounds, unfortunately, it's the way you got to act. So you want to do it responsibly, and you wouldn't want to go onto sites and do things that you wouldn't want your mother to know about at your age. Okay, when you go out of the house and you're grown up, you can do things that I don't want to know about. Okay, let's talk about another software program here. Let's get out of this and let's go to Screen-O-Matic, which actually is what I'm doing with you right now. What I'm doing is called a screencast. And what a screencast is basically when I'm able to jump around and talk to you and go from site to site, the computer's recording my every move and my voice. And that's called a screencast. And the software I'm using to do this is called Screencast-O-Matic. And I've signed up for this software, and you can use it too. And it'll let you edit what you say afterwards, and you can start and stop. And I think it might be useful to you when you're recording some of your YouTube videos. So, for instance, this is a little 1.5 minute long example of a screencast that I did, and I'll just play a little bit of it so you get an idea of what it does. And there's of course YouTube how to do videos on how do you create one of these, and you'll go through this, but here you go. Hi fellow Web 2.0 students, this is Dana Jackson, and the website that I'd like to show you a few seconds of is this editor's blog for all you wannabe fiction writers, and it's about punctuation and dialogue and numerous other things, but I particularly like this particular reference. Let's see here, I'm going to practice my drawing tool. See, because dialogue does have its own rules for punctuation, and it's not the same thing as sentence punctuation. So let's see if I can scroll down here and show you. Punctuation with regards to dialogue, usually you're talking about periods and question marks and where it goes, and inside, whether it goes inside quotation marks or not. But what happens if you have a single line of dialogue? Here I'm going to practice with my drawing tool again. A single line of dialogue or no dialogue tag after it. A dialogue tag is like he said, she said. How do you punctuate that, and what does that look like? So I'll erase that annoying mark and close that out and keep going down here. And what about when you have the double? Here you got a dialogue tag in between it, and you've got a single line of dialogue, and then there's some action afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. If you want to see the whole thing, feel free. But that just gives you an idea of what a screencast is and the type of tools. And they have more tools that I haven't practiced with. You know, I can zoom in and out of things and so forth, and it just takes practice. And you and I will be practicing together. Okay, so the very last thing I want to show you that you'll be learning is how to do a podcast. And I think this is crucial if you really want to be a comedian and get a following, because comedy is all about delivery. And although there's also video casting, vodcasting, I don't know how to do that yet. I'll learn that next semester, and when I learn it, then I'll turn around and teach you. So here's podcasting. The software that I learned this semester was called TalkShoe. And in TalkShoe here, basically a person can record an audio file, and they can do it live or pre-record it and upload it. And they can even take their voice and record it in certain programs, which you'll learn how to use next semester, and edit your own voice and take things out and add things and fix any ums and ahs like I'm doing now. Include music in the background, things like that. But that's next semester. This semester, you're just going to learn how to do a podcast itself. And you can jump in and out of other people's podcasts sometimes and add comments. And if they're doing it live, you can text, type in questions and for them. So obviously, both in social media and your presentations, your spelling's important, your sentence structure's important. You don't want to come off looking like a 10-year-old, even though you are. I know you mentally want to be much older, so you've got to represent yourself older, as much older and more sophisticated in your writing. So in this podcast here, you get to subscribe to a channel of maybe you find a comedian you really like and want to listen to what he has to say, and he does podcast. And when you subscribe to this channel, they actually do automatic downloads, like to your iPod or your iPad or your computer, and new ones come in, and when you get a chance, you can listen to them. And I know as a comedian, you're going to want to record your jokes and create your own channel, and then people can subscribe to you and listen to your jokes whenever they want to. So I recorded my very first podcast, And it was actually an open letter to you before you start 5th grade. So you can find it here. I did send you a link in case this comes out garbled, but I kind of wanted to share this with you, and this is the last thing I'm going to do in this presentation. I'll roll with this 4 or 5 minute open letter to you, and then that'll be the end of this presentation. Here you go.
As I'm not currently a teacher in a classroom, but just being a mother and homeschool teacher while I complete my master's in education, this podcast is an open letter to my 10-year-old son, Hunter Jackson, before he begins 5th grade. Hi, Hunter. I wanted to talk to you briefly before you begin your 5th grade quest. It may not be a video game quest, but this quest is going to have twists and turns and reward points, just like your games. I realize parents in general, especially me, can be so busy that they sometimes forget to clearly spell out goals they have for their children in the upcoming year. And forgetting to do that can lead to both of us being on a different page when it comes to expectations of behavior and accomplishments for the school year. So I wanted to take a moment and clearly tell you what my personal goals are for you so we can synchronize. This way, it won't come as a surprise if you're grounded for life after some serious rule breaking. In life, my goal as your mother is to help you become a literate, moral, competent, and ethical man ready to accomplish your own life goals, whatever they may be. But what do I mean by literate, moral, competent, and ethical? When I say literate, I don't just mean you can read and write. I mean the ability to access, find, and understand, to analyze, like who said it and why, and the genre and point of view the author had, and evaluate what are the logical conclusions and what are the values or things the authors find important. You know, like learning to appreciate the beauty and aesthetics of what was created, or what about this is important for you to understand and learn and why. That's all part of evaluation. When you analyze, that means to look outside of your own world and into another person's world. And when you evaluate, you look into your own world, your views, your knowledge and beliefs, and see how this new knowledge goes with that or not. And lastly, being literate means having the ability to communicate messages in a variety of forms, like writing in all forms. Yep, that includes cursive, creating video and audio messages, public speaking, having a debate, etc. It can even mean Facebook and Twitter when you're ready. And yes, that means your YouTube channel and what you put on it, and your animations as well. So a literate, moral, competent, and ethical man ready to accomplish your life goals, whatever they may be. But what do I mean by moral? What I mean by moral is for you to be able to know right from wrong in your conduct, and thus decide and act from that understanding. Like when you decided not to punch Chase in the face after he scratched you during a pillow fight a few days ago. You acted from the understanding that it was not okay to punch as your first choice. Good choice. Being competent means having the necessary ability, knowledge, and skill to do something successfully. It doesn't have to be outstanding. It just has to be acceptable and satisfactory. For example, as long as the dishes are rinsed enough and loaded well so the dishwasher can successfully and fully clean the dishes before we eat off of them, then you would be a competent dishwasher. When I drink out of a glass with dried green goo, then that doesn't qualify as successful and competent dishwashing. Lastly, being ethical means following the group rules that you are in, whatever groups you join, as long as they do not supersede or take the place of your own moral code. Like when you were hanging out with Lucas and Finn and Sam, and they dared you to jump from the tree rope onto the trampoline and do a flip midair. Even though it was a double dare, and you're supposed to be their leader in crazy ideas and dares, you knew that Dad would probably have a heart attack, keel over, and die while watching you through his office window when you did this. So you just didn't do it. That's an excellent example of your moral code being superior to your group rules. So that's what we, as your parents, are going for. We want to help you become a literate, moral, and competent and ethical man ready to accomplish your own life goals, whatever they may be. Oh yeah, that means you also have to have your own job, make your own money, and live outside of our house by the time you're out of college, if you decide to go to college. And no, we will not grant you an emancipation at 14 for your request, so you can get started early. High school is just too important. Good luck with 5th grade, son.